Hello! So today AzurePoly released the Transall C160 for Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I went and bought it, and I've been struggling for the last couple of hours to figure out how to operate the thing. I will admit I was struggling mainly because of a lack of documentation and a lack of good guidance videos. So I saw obviously some of the big name YouTubers had advanced copies of this, and they've recorded very carefully constructed videos that don't show the things that are missing or don't make much sense. But putting aside all the bits that are missing, it's actually a really good aeroplane, and if you can overlook the bits that are missing, it's brilliant fun. So you can see the modelling is really great. The material modelling, the texturing is really good. You get several liveries with it of real world counterpart aeroplanes. So inside the story continues. It looks photographic wherever you look. Everything's clickable. Not all of the systems are working, but the majority of it is. Some of it works a bit unexpectedly. We'll get to that. But yeah, it's on the whole, it's very, very good. All of the interior is done as well, by the way. So if we look down in the cargo hold, you can see the whole plane there is all modelled really nicely. All the doors and everything work, and the tailgate works and everything. So, okay, let's get started. So it has this tablet. So we're going to go and remove the wheel chocks and the covers in the tablet. And we'll have a little look through the tablet while we're here. So obviously this gives you some shortcut options to shortcut the aircraft state. You can go in here and turn on some nice visual effects like propeller vortices and dust. You can load the cargo bay, so we could put some bits and pieces in the back, like an armoured car, for example. You just saw the aeroplane sag on the suspension. So if I press Control 8 now, we can see there's a huge troop carrier in the back of the aeroplane. So we'll come back and we'll remove that. We don't want anything heavy weighing us down while we're pretending to know what we're doing with the aeroplane. Okay, so you can obviously fill the fuel as you wish. There's a moving map. There is a very basic autopilot in the tablet, which gives rise to the observation there is no working flight control system in the aircraft yet. There's no flight management computer. It's sat there in the aeroplane. You can power it up and it's got some random stats on it, which I'll show you, but it's not there quite yet. Okay, so let's not worry too much about that tablet, and we'll just go switch it off for ourselves for the moment. All we're going to do today is get the aeroplane powered up, taxi around and take it off. I've not actually flown it myself yet. I've been sat here for 2 or 3 hours going round and round in circles checking procedures. So I've written up all of these steps in a nice neat document, as I usually do, and we'll be able to go through it together, and this is really a proof of the document. So we've checked the tablet is gone out of the way. So the next thing we do is go Control 6, and we're going to turn on the batteries, which are overhead. So battery 1 and battery 2. Now if we hear a klaxon, which we may, it's down to a bug in the aeroplane, so let's try it. There we go. So I'm going to press F and go and cancel the alarm. It is a bug in the aeroplane. If you've done a restart in the simulator, which I did to begin recording, then that may happen. You just need to go and cancel the klaxon. So then we'll turn on battery number 2, and you can see the ammeters come up. That's good that that happened, so I could show you that in case you ever have it happen. Okay, so then we jump into the cockpit, and we have already checked the tablet. That's already done. We're going to go down to the EFIS display controls. So we're going to turn on the attitude indicator brightness and also the horizontal situation indicator there. That's all done. So then we go to the central pedestal in the middle of the cockpit, and this is where I take a bit of a leap of faith of things that aren't on the AzurePoly checklist yet, but I think they should be. Is you would now go and turn on your inertial navigation system to align itself, so it will sit aligning for a little while we get on with other things. The APU section at the top right, the air inlet valve. Now it's worth pointing out here, look, the bleed air should not be open, it should be closed. Also these two levers here shouldn't be forward, they should be back at this point. These are bugs. It's also worth pointing out before we go any further that the throttle levers are wrong. At the moment, and I've looked in quite some detail at this, you can see the levers animate where it should go into the reverse set, so it should be about there. At the moment, that's 0% throttle with no beta, no reverse, and that's 100%. So at the moment, they've modelled no way of getting, that I can find, of getting reverse thrust. Now, I've played with it and played with it, so your mileage may vary. Let's just put it that way. So let's press Control 3 again. So what am I doing? We're going to say air inlet to open. We're going to switch the APU start to on. And then we can press Control 2 and we can monitor the APU gauges, and you can see the percentage RPM is coming up towards 100. This is quite a noisy aeroplane once it gets up and running, so if it's seeming quiet to you at the moment, just wait. So you can hear the whine of the APU as it comes up to speed. So once we've got an APU, we can go overhead and we can cross-feed using this G5 switch over to using the APU, and you saw the light jump across there. They don't have a lot of labels on this, so a lot of it you just have to learn by rote, which is again something I've struggled with. Okay, so now we switch all 4 of the transfer switches across the top of the overhead panel to their forward position. You will have noticed as we did that the red lights further down went out. And now we're going to go through the engine start procedure. So the first thing we do with starting an engine, the engines of a big aeroplane, is turn the anti-collision lights on. So we just do that over here. Then we come back down to the central pedestal. We go to the master ignition switch, which is in the middle here, and we move it to its, or we pull it towards ourselves. So against all the other switches, which are forward for on, this one's towards us for on, or back for on. So master ignition switch goes on. Bleed air needs to be on. We check the idle levers are pulled back. We have already done that. We go to the fuel pump section. Engine 2, front pump A and B, and rear pump A and B. So they are here. So engine 2 pumps, we turn them all on. And then engine 2 start, we uncage it and we slide it forwards, it goes green, and you will hear the aeroplane start to come to life. So while it is doing this, we can press Control 2 and we can watch the RPM raising. When it gets to 2000 RPM, we are going to move the condition lever for engine number 2. So it's just coming up to 2000 RPM. So we move the condition lever for number 2 to the it's in shut off when it's all the way back. This is its low idle position. Yeah? So you can hear the engines coming up. If you want to monitor them, if you press F to get your normal cockpit position, there's no predefined view for this. You can see the RPM coming up. So as the RPM comes up, you can then push this onto high idle. We'll leave it where it is for the moment, but we can push the idle lever forwards once it gets to high enough RPM. Yeah, it just changes the nature of the engine. Okay. Engine 2 start. Uncaged. And on. And it goes green. This one can go off and closed. So we are now waiting for 2000 RPM on engine number 1. Sorry, I've read the wrong number out there. Well, also while we're doing that, we can go overhead and we can turn the 3 and 4 generators to on. Why that one is red, I do not know yet. Okay, so we've got 2000 RPM now, haven't we? So then we can go and push this forwards. And the RPM comes up. Yeah, Control 2 gives you the nicer view of this. So then we can push this, the idle condition lever forwards to, this is the norm position as it's called. Okay, so once the engine is started, we can then pull the starter lever back, close it, and then turn off the master start switch, and then we can come back over to here and we can turn off the bleed air. We can turn off the APU. Oh no, we don't turn off the APU yet. We go back overhead, I almost forgot. We turn the other generators on. Yeah, they're all good now. So there's little bits of wiring that make no sense why the G3, for example, wasn't working. We can turn the APU generator off now. Yeah, and then we can come back down to the centre of the cockpit and we can turn off the APU and the inlet. And you can hear the APU spooling down. The engines are fine now. So, at this point, you're really just doing other bits and pieces around the cockpit. So, we're going to go and turn on the flight management computers, even though they're not operational yet, so you get to see them. So it says init in progress. They will light up in a moment. So all they really give you at the moment is your location, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah, see, it just gives you a GPS location. None of the buttons actually do it. Oh, they do key into a scratch pad, which is interesting. But if you go to the initialization page, there's nothing there. No flight plan page. It's a bit of a shame. Okay, so the transponder, sorry, the identity friend or foe, IFF, does kind of switch on. So we can go standby and we can go to norm mode. Don't think it does anything yet, but it's there. I'm not going to get too deeply into what any of this does because I don't know. So identification friend or foe, isn't it? Okay. So once you are getting ready to roll with the aeroplane, you'll need to go and turn some lights on. So we'll go and look back overhead and you will see we've got position lights we can go and switch on. And then if we go to the pilot view, we've got the landing lights and the taxi lights. So we'll go and put the taxi lights to up. That may be the reverse of what we need, but we'll go and turn the landing lights on just to see if we can light those up. Yeah, they're nice and bright, aren't they? So let's just check this. So this is a voyage of discovery for me as well. Ah, yeah, there we go. So we've got the taxi light on the nose. Okay. So should we go and actually take this round to the runway and see how we get on with it? So before we do anything then, we will advance the... We can taxi on low idle, by the way. Oh, I think I've just shut the engine down. So let's see how we recover from that. It just shows you how twitchy these are. So all we need to do is uncover that, turn the APU back on, it's a good lesson really, isn't it? Engine's coming back, even though the APU hasn't actually sprung back into life properly. That's interesting. So we're getting away with murder here, basically. Okay, so before we mess anything else up in the aeroplane, Let's go and taxi out. We've got a warning there because we lost the engine. So all of the warning lights have gone out. So we're hoping if the avionics for that part is modelled that it's all good. We go to take off for the flaps. And let's have a look at it. Does look good, doesn't it? So let's see if it kicks some dust up. So it does on the wheels. What about the propellers? So we'll put the brakes on, because this plane's quite happy running on rough ground. So if we go back in here and say give us the propeller dust and the vortices, let's see what happens. Let's taxi out and stop misbehaving, shall we? Let's get rid of the EFB again. So I'm going to be really interested to see what this plane behaves like, because I've not seen it at all, not flown it. I've just been messing around, learning my way around the cockpit and writing procedures up. So we're runway 22 at Stansted, by the way, if you're wondering. It's noisy, isn't it? So we've gone for 75% on the throttles. Let's go for max. I'm watching the gauges to see what happens. There's no real guidance about this. Not a detailed guidance. So we're off the ground, which is good. 140 knots. Gear up. Let's have a look at those animations. Okay, do we have a hydraulics issue? No, we have a control mapping issue, that's what we have. So the default lever for the undercarriage doesn't work with the Transall. Okay, that's another thing that's good to know. So the Transall is famous, if you've ever seen it in an air show, for doing extreme manoeuvres. So we're going up towards 220 knots at the moment. So I'll just give you some idea. It wouldn't be unusual at all in an air show to see this thing pull up into ridiculously steep climbs and to do wingovers. Oh, there's the vortices. Very cool. So we're just doing a wing over, full left rudder all the way around, then straighten it out, off the power, unusual attitude recovery. And we're doing 250 knots on the button. So let's go downwind. A very, very unorthodox procedure here at Stansted. Let's just circle round, lose the speed, and come back into the airfield. It's very much a test flight. It's interesting that the gear lever doesn't work. Because I copied the default profile. So we're dropping down to 160 knots. So we're going to put the gear back down. Down to 120 knots. Extending flaps. Wondering if we're going to stall the inside wing. I'm not sure what the stall speed is. Try my best to stop the plane from skidding by forcing it around the corner with rudder. It's quite stunning, isn't it? You can get away with a lot. Okay, so full flaps. Just keeping an eye on the airspeed there. Should we do this from outside to see how it falls? Interesting. Obviously we have no reverse thrust on the axes, which is a bit of a shame. Anyway, I thought you might like that, and I'll see you again soon. I will put the link to the notes for the startup procedure in the notes of the video. Okay, see you soon.